is the Writer's Almanac for Sunday, the 27th of June, 2021. It was on this day, 1787, Edward Gibbon completed the final volume of the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. He was living in Lausanne, Switzerland. He was joyful, of course. He'd been working on it for 20 years. He'd written 6 volumes tracing the history of Western civilization from the height of the Roman Empire to the fall of Byzantium. Edward Gibbon, who said, "History is indeed little more than the register of the crimes, follies, and misfortune of mankind." It's the birthday of Alice McDermott, born Brooklyn, 1953, grew up on Long Island in an Irish Catholic family. She is still a practicing Catholic. She said, "It's getting a little bit more hip to be Catholic. For me, having characters who are part of a faith then allows me to talk about how that faith either works or fails them without having to attack the institution." She's been a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for 3 of her books so far: That Night, At Weddings and Wakes, and After This. It's the birthday of the poet Lucille Clifton, born in Depew, New York, 1936. Went to Howard University on scholarship, who published her first book, Good Times, in 1969 while raising 6 children. Her opening poem in Good Times begins, "In the inner city, or like we call it, home, we think a lot about uptown and the silent nights and the houses straight as dead men and the pastel lights, and we hang on to our no place, happy to be alive." And it was on this day in 1844, Joseph Smith, Jr., the founder of the Mormon Church, was killed by a mob in Carthage, Illinois. 21 years before, he had been visited, he said, by an angel named Moroni, who directed him to gold plates buried in the woods on which were written the history of the Israelites, which he translated with the help of 2 seer stones. And so he wrote the Book of Mormon. He and his supporters headed west through Ohio to Missouri and then to Illinois, where they ran into trouble, and he was put in jail in Carthage, where 200 men one night broke into the jail and shot Smith and his brother Hiram to death. Here's a poem for today by David Budbill. 72 is not 35. I spent 7 hours yesterday at my daughter's house, helping her expand their garden by at least 10 times. We dug up sod by the shovelful, shook off the dirt as best we could, sod into the wheelbarrow and off to the pile at the edge of the yard. Then all that over and over again, 5 hours total work time with time out for lunch and supper. By the time I got home, I knew all too well that 72 is not 35. I could barely move. I got to quit earlier than Nadine. She told me I'd done enough and that I should go get a beer and lie down on the chaise lounge and cheer her on, which is what I did. All this made me remember my father 40 years ago helping me with my garden. My father's dead now and has been dead for many years, which is how I'll be one of these days too. And then Nadine will help her child, who is not yet here, with her garden. Old Nadine, aching and sore, will be in my empty shoes, cheering on her own. So it goes. The wheel turns, generation after generation, around and around. We ride for a little while, get off, and somebody else gets on, over and over, again and again. 72 is not 35, a poem by David Budbill, used here by permission of the poet on the Writer's Almanac, funded by donations from listeners like you, now available on PRX for distribution by your local radio station. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.
Winning comes in all shapes and sizes. Every day there's an opportunity for a win, just like scratchers from the Virginia Lottery. Everyday grab and go, everyday giftable, everyday fun. It's where anticipation meets instant gratification. And they're satisfying to scratch, no matter the outcome. Like the new Virginia Lottery Scratcher Colossal Cash. It's loaded with $100 to $500 prizes. Now, that's an everyday win. Drive to the nearest Virginia Lottery retail location and pick up a scratcher today. Odds of winning any prize, 1 in 3.21. Winning comes in all shapes and sizes. Every day there's an opportunity for a win, just like scratchers from the Virginia Lottery. Everyday grab and go, everyday giftable, everyday fun. It's where anticipation meets instant gratification. And they're satisfying to scratch, no matter the outcome. Like the new Virginia Lottery Scratcher Colossal Cash. It's loaded with $100 to $500 prizes. Now, that's an everyday win. Drive to the nearest Virginia Lottery retail location and pick up a scratcher today. Odds of winning any prize, 1 in 3.21.